Hello and welcome to Cult Movie Club. Today I'm going to be running down the top 20 favourite films of 2023, which is a video I've been wanting to do for a while and one of the reasons why I wanted to get this channel back up and running. So I compiled a list at the start of this year of the best films that I'd seen, and it surprised me just how many films that I did see in 2023, probably most than I've ever seen in the previous year really. Seen quite a lot of these at the cinema as well. So I'm not going to do a long video. I want to make this really brief. I'm not going to talk about the films too much. I'm just going to put them in the order that I really, and the reason why they're in that order, kind of. No list like this is complete though without mentioning some of my least favourites. I've got 3 of those. So one of my least favourites was Mafia Mama, which starred Toni Collette, which I was up for watching because I really like Toni Collette's work, especially in Hereditary and some of her older films. But this was just not really funny at all. After that was a film called Genie, which came out around December time with Melissa McCarthy, who's very hit and miss. This was definitely a miss. This was based on, I think it was an early 90s TV movie that Richard Curtis did. Yeah, not very good at all. Didn't laugh once. And finally, by far the worst of the year, and probably because the Netflix marketing team put all over social media that this film was a threat to life for how scary it was. So I was interested in checking it out to see if any of that was even a little bit true. And no, it was not at all. It was a terrible film. That was The Strays, which I don't recommend whatsoever. There was a slight bit of tension in the middle, I think, but apart from that, no scares whatsoever. So avoid at all costs. However, we've got those out of the way now. So let's get on to the top 20, which starting with at number 20 is Saltburn, a film that I saw before all the hype and before people were talking about the scenes where the film goes to places you don't really expect it to go. I really enjoyed Saltburn. I thought it was good performances from all the cast. Like I said, there was moments where I was like, wow, okay, what is happening? But that just, made me enjoy it more, really. At number 19, Evil Dead Rise. Evil Dead is a really strong franchise, quality-wise. There's not really been a bad one. Army of Darkness is probably my least favourite, but that's still a load of fun. This is a bit like, not like it at all, but most of the other Evil Dead films are set in a cabin, whereas obviously Army of Darkness isn't, but neither is this. It takes that setting and it puts it in a block of flats, with a family in a block of flats, and the female character who gets possessed in this is really good in this film, and there's some real iconic imagery that I can see being remembered for a long time. Also really vicious. Not quite as vicious as the previous Evil Dead remake, and it's not quite as good as that, but it is still a really good horror film. At number 18, we have the most recent Mission Impossible film, Dead Reckoning, which I was slightly disappointed with, I won't lie, although it was going to be really hard to follow up Mission Impossible Fallout. This is still enjoyable, however, a tad too long, and the story just seems to revolve around the massive action set pieces, of which there's a few in the film. I'd put it on par with, say, Mission Impossible 5 and 4. Not one of my favourites, but still a good one. Next, we have got Totally Killer, which was a kind of horror comedy that I was really surprised with and I really enjoyed, and I've recommended to a lot of people who've also enjoyed it. If you can imagine like a slasher film, say Halloween, Friday the 13th, mixed with Back to the Future, that's what you get. And it's the main character is from present times and is zapped back to the 80s, where obviously attitudes are very different, and she's all woke and just can't get her head around what's happening, which provides a lot of laughs. Next is Talk to Me, which I saw at cinema, which I was really impressed with. There was a lot of hype around this movie, and I thought it was really good, and it was really well done, and it was an original idea. And it did have a couple of good, effective scares in the movie as well. Next is Barbie, which is probably going to be the most controversial on this list of all the films on this list. I did see Barbie at a screening, which was set out on like a beach and stuff, so it kind of added to my enjoyment of the film. But I also really liked Ryan Gosling as Ken. I thought all the cast were really good in it, really. Everyone looked like they're having loads of fun. Will Ferrell's in this as well. And I've since seen it at home and I've enjoyed it. So yeah, that's the reason why it's so high on this list. Next is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which is just as good as the other Spider-Man film, if not slightly better. The animation is just incredible. Story's great. It does feel a bit like half a film, which is why it's a bit lower on this list than probably some other people's lists of the year. But I still really enjoyed it. Next is Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I really like the first Guardians of the Galaxy. The second one I thought wasn't as good. However, this third one is probably my favourite of the three. James Gunn's having a load of fun with this being his last Marvel outing, and it seems that he had a bit of a free reign to do what he wanted. As there is certain like kind of body horror moments that are obviously quite tame, but it has got kind of a Cronenberg-esque vibe towards the third act. And yeah, just little nods here and there, and it really does. It doesn't really feel like a Marvel film. It feels like a James Gunn film. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. Also, great soundtrack. Next, which is a film that I was highly anticipating and I thought would be a lot higher on my top films of the year. But here it is. It's Killers of the Flower Moon, which is the latest Martin Scorsese and DiCaprio movie. This film just needed to be shorter. Really, it was 3.5 hours long. And it could have easily, not easily, but I think it needed to be 45, at least 45 minutes shorter. There was serious pacing issues for me in this film, and it did come out. I felt like it came out the film a couple of times in the middle. I got back into it towards the end, and I was really into the beginning, but in the middle it just lagged a bit for me. I think it needed cutting down slightly, and rewatch value. Obviously, with it being so long, there isn't a lot. However, there is some really good performances, especially from Robert De Niro, who puts in a real great late performance here. Lily Gladstone, obviously the main actress, is holding up. She's surrounded by big stars here, and she's doing a really good job. And Leo's great in this film also. However, it's not really his best role, in my opinion, but he's still good in it. Next is a film called May December, which is Natalie Portman, which is really good. I really enjoyed it. It's got a really good score. It sort of threatens to dip into psychological thriller horror territory for a while, but actually stays quite restrained, but tells a really good story. Next is The Equalizer Part 3, which I really enjoyed. I thought it was the best of the Equalizer films for me. It was really good to see Denzel Washington back with Dakota Fanning in the film. It was a little Man on Fire reunion. So we've got Infinity Pool next, which is Brandon Cronenberg film, and is a very, very Cronenberg film. It's proper out there. There's some real strong imagery in this. I really liked the idea. I can see that a lot of people will be put off with this, especially with some of the imagery. But if you're into David Cronenberg, then this needs to be checked out. Next is a film called No One Will Save You, which I was really surprised with. And there's not much dialogue in this movie at all. It's about an alien invasion, which has not been done in this way before. I thought it was quite original how they did it. Highly recommend. Renfield is another one that I saw at the cinema that I had a great time with. This Nicolas Cage proper hamming it up as Dracula. Loads of gore, loads of it, but done in a very comical way. Next is Extraction 2, which is Chris Hemsworth. I enjoyed the first Extraction. I thought it was really good. However, I think this one topped it. It's really good. There's some action scenes in this that look like the one-shots, but I mean, there might be. I'm not looked too much into it. I'm sure there's some clever editing, but they're really well done. Proper, really good action scenes. If you're into action films, and this is a must. And this is another one made by Netflix, which is Leave the World Behind. I really enjoyed this film. It's something that wasn't even on my radar at all. But I said my wife wanted to watch it, so I was like, fine. And I probably enjoyed it more than she did. The ending has divided audiences on this film. I enjoyed the whole thing though. I thought it was really well done, loads of tension, great cast. Next is The Killer, which is a David Fincher film, which I knew I was going to like, so I didn't disappoint really at all. This is the best film that David Fincher's done in a while for me. Really enjoyed it. And third place, we've got Oppenheimer, which has cleaned up at the Oscars and is a great Christopher Nolan film. Christopher Nolan's yet to do a bad film. Unlike Killers of the Flower Moon, it is a long film at 3 hours, however, doesn't feel it. So next is a film that wasn't on my radar till towards the end of the year. However, when I did see more and more about it, it made me want to see even more. There was a couple of little showings near where I lived, so I went to it. And it's Godzilla -1, which absolutely blew me away by how good it was and how good the effects are for a film that only cost around $50 million to make. Absolutely outstanding, especially when you're seeing films that have got over 200 million budgets where the CGI looks absolutely terrible. So Hollywood needs to look at this film and see, because the effects in this film looked amazing. My top film of the year, which was one of the first films I saw of the year, is John Wick 4, which surprised me probably more than anyone. I loved the first John Wick film. I thought the second one was alright, and I thought the third one was alright, but I thought it got a bit silly. And then I went to see this, not expecting much, and was absolutely blown away by it. Yes, it is over the top. However, it is on an epic scale. Again, this is quite a long film, clocking in at nearly 3 hours. However, it does not feel that running time whatsoever. The action scenes in the film, especially the third act, which is basically an action scene which is over an hour long, and just accelerates and gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and just builds. It's absolutely brilliant. Highly recommended. One of the best action films of recent times for me. So yeah, number one place, John Wick 4. That is my top 20 favourite films of 2023. Obviously, these are just my personal favourites. I'm not saying that is definitely the best film that came out. It's just my favourite. I'm sure you've got your own lists. If you like, comment below and tell me what yours are. If you've got some on this list that are similar to mine, let me know, and I'll see you again soon.